Even after he got back to the White House, he just kept signing. I mean, this guy was so in the zone, he didn't even know what he was signing.
Withdrawing from
what is this one?
Withdrawing from the World Health Organization, sir.
Ooh.
He's withdrawing from the World Health Organization like he's hearing the dessert options. No, yeah, I'll have the tiramisu and potential measles outbreak with that. I mean, if you could put anything in front of him yesterday, he would have signed it. Melania, now's a chance to update the prenup. Go. But you know... But you know what? I'm not going to be shitting on President Trump, okay? Okay, sure, he pulled out of the WHO. But, like, who are those guys? What are the odds there's ever going to be a pandemic requiring global cooperation? So I'm going to go to President Trump with an open mind. You know, he won the election, which means he's a great guy who's right. So I'm sure his executive orders are reasonable.
Trump pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accords.
Okay, look, I know that sounds bad for these woke liberals, but, like, does it really matter? You know, 1 year we're in, next year we're out. We've been doing the hokey pokey with these guys for like 12 years. They don't even put us in the group chat anymore, okay? Also, newsflash, Paris Accord, yo, we're not gonna reach the emission goals anyway, okay? This world is over.
And Trump is going to try, through executive order, to end birthright citizenship. It's a constitutional right that those born on American soil are U.S. citizens, regardless of their parents' immigration status.
Okay, that does sound like a major change. Birthright citizenship has been in the Constitution for over 100 years. But, on the other hand, should you just be a U.S. citizen just because you were born here? I mean, I think all citizens should have to prove that they're truly American by taking a quiz on American history and failing it. Okay? If your score's above 60, you're going back to Asia or whatever shithole country has educational standards. It sounds like there's a campaign Trump that says things to win, and then there's a President Trump who rules more moderately.
Overnight, with the stroke of a pen, President Trump issuing sweeping pardons to nearly all of the rioters charged for their actions on January 6th.
So this is January 6th?
Trump even granting clemency to the more than 600 people charged with assaulting or resisting law enforcement.
Okay, look, freeing violent criminals from prison seems less moderate and more like something Bane did, okay? But you know what? If you know your history, in that situation, Batman fixed it, okay? So concerns are overblown. And look, these guys have been in prison for like 2 whole months already, okay? I'm sure they've learned their lesson.
Jacob Chansley, we know him as also the QAnon shaman. He put out something on social media where he said, "I got a pardon, baby. Thank you, President Trump. Now I am gonna buy some mother effing guns."
See, he learned his lesson. On Monday, he wiped out all federal DEI programs. And yesterday, he ordered that if anyone, if you see anyone trying to be inclusive, you better tell teacher.
The Trump administration asking federal workers to snitch on their coworkers in a rollback of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs.
Employees have been told to report any colleagues who work in diversity, equity, and inclusion roles, or they could face consequences. NBC News obtained emails sent to multiple agencies that say some of these programs are disguised using coded or imprecise language.
Yeah, you hear that? Don't even think about doing DEI in secret, all right? Don't be meeting up in back alleys like, yo, you got any lesbian resumes for me today? And I know you think DEI was only invented in 2020 by Democrats looking for a fresh new way to lose elections. But Donald Trump is dedicated to rooting out DEI all throughout history.
One of the president's executive orders revokes an executive order signed by President Lyndon Johnson in 1965 that the Trump administration says mandated affirmative action.
That's right, Donald Trump went back in time to kill baby DEI. It's kind of impressive that he got this much focus. Trump is doing deep dives into these obscure old policies like he's MAGA John Oliver. And look, I'm not going to pretend to know more about civil rights law than Donald Trump. I mean, he's been sued over it many times. But if a discrimination law has been around since 1965, it might be a load-bearing civil rights thing, so maybe don't touch it.
Donald Trump was busy getting our military in shape so he can finally fulfill our country's month-old dream of conquering Greenland. And first, we're going to need to have as many troops as possible.
President Trump has signed several executive orders to reshape the military, including directive banning transgender service members.
Okay, did I say as many troops? I mean fewer troops, right? You know what they say in the Army, less is more. Look, maybe they don't say that. I don't know, but that's... Look, I don't have a problem with transgender soldiers. As someone who pees himself anytime he hears a loud noise, I think we should be grateful to anyone who's willing to put their life on the line so I don't have to. But hey, yeah, okay. But I'm open-minded about being closed-minded, so what's the issue here?
President Trump signed an executive order calling transgender people unfit to serve.
One part says being transgender is, quote, not consistent with the humility and selflessness required of a service member.
Another says being trans conflicts with, quote, an honorable, truthful, and disciplined lifestyle, even in one's personal life.
Yeah, well, look, you know, it makes sense that the military has to be honorable, truthful, and disciplined. You know, sure, this is your Secretary of Defense, but that's all the more reason that the rest of them have to have their shit together. It's like how every Beatles album had to be packed with hits to make up for that one song that Ringo wrote about wanting to f*** an octopus or whatever. I gotta say, the military sure has a lot of ethical rules for their mission of killing people. Hey, you want to blow some guy's head off? You better say please and thank you. But to be fair, Trump had another argument against trans soldiers as well.
They specifically cite readiness with transition surgeries. If you have a transition surgery, the recovery time and the narcotics that you have to be on as part of the process could affect your readiness for up to 12 months.
Oh, up to 12 months. Do you know how long our wars last? I think they'll have you back in the game in no time. Vietnam War, 11 years. Afghanistan War, 20 years. Even our storage wars last 15 seasons. First of all, transgender people make up 0.1% of the military. So, Commander-in-Chief, you're ruining the lives of people who are dedicated to serving America while doing nothing to affect the larger military. I don't see why a transition surgery should affect readiness more than any other surgery. Trump is acting like they're doing transition surgeries on the front lines. Medic! I need a medic over here. We gotta get this guy a labia, stat! Also, what do you mean, readiness? Modern war is just telling a drone to drop bombs. Pretty sure it doesn't matter what your sex is to go like this. That's how they drop bombs.
When Trump ran for president, he had an urgent message about the state of our country.
Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. We are a nation in decline. We have to fight for our country, and we have to fight like we've never fought before. It's like we're a giant garbage can.
How dare you? If anything, America is a recycling bin. Useless and made almost entirely of plastic. But that's it. We have to fight to save our country. And now Daddy's home. And he's about to take out the trash. And 2 weeks into the Trump presidency, we have a better sense of the evil and powerful forces that have been dragging our once great nation into decline.
The Trump administration removed transgender references from federal government websites. It now reads LGB instead of LGBT.
They have no idea the damage T was doing to our nation. Consonants! because I think you'll agree with me, there is no T in USA. If you spell it out, obviously, that becomes an issue. And if you want a BLT for lunch, things can get ugly. But nothing will stop America's low T, like no T. What other changes are making us great again?
The Trump administration ordering all gender ideology references be removed, including pronouns and email signatures.
Oh, yeah. Consonants and pronouns. Your next prepositions. No more pronouns and email signatures. Good luck signing your emails now, President She. Or should I say President Him?
Donald Trump has already moved on because he's basically the norovirus. Every day he spews executive orders all over the place, and while we struggle to clean up all the puke, he comes out the other end with something even worse. He tried to buy out the entire workforce of the CIA. His DOJ is going after anyone who's investigated him, and now he has defeated America's biggest threat.
At the White House today, President Trump signing an executive order banning transgender women and girls from competing in women's sports.
With this executive order, the war on women's sports is over. We're putting every school receiving taxpayer dollars on notice that if you let men take over women's sports teams or invade your locker rooms, you will be investigated for violations of Title IX and risk your federal funding.
You notice how he paused right before invade your locker rooms? Like, maybe we won't make that illegal. Should have proofread this. Look, it's bad enough that he's banned trans women from sports, but spare us the performance of pretending that this is a top issue for women in this country. Maybe start with, I don't know, reproductive rights or pay inequality. Or why it's 2025 and still none of my clothes have pockets.
Everything Trump does is all part of making America great again. Order one. Roll back everything from the previous not great administration. Regulations on the environment, regulations on the Second Amendment, the Title IX guidance, and not just the big shit. You want to make America great again, you can't skimp on the details.
President Trump says he's going to reverse Joe Biden's mandate to phase out plastic straws, saying, enjoy your next drink without a straw that disgustingly dissolves in your mouth.
Okay, he's right on this one. He is right on this one. Those straws are f***ing terrible. Objectively terrible. I'm supposed to have some weird tissue paper dissolve in my mouth just because turtles can't figure out straws aren't food? No. Don't eat the tubes, you stupid turtles. So Trump is making America great again by taking us back to 2016.
The Trump administration is actively trying to purge the federal government of so-called woke initiatives. Government agencies have flagged hundreds of words to limit or avoid. Words like DEI, BIPOC, anti-racism, Latinx, Native American, Black, women. Seemingly random words like expression, at risk, political, and even mental health and sex.
What's left? BIPOC and Latinx, I get that. You're not allowed to say sex. You can't say words like women or sex or hashtag me too. How can a lot of your cabinet members describe their weekends? You know, you can't protest in a way that offends the right. You can't teach things that the right doesn't want you to teach. You can't read things that they don't want you to read. You can't use words that they don't want you to use, but they love free speech. I guess fear not. At least we'll always have art.
President Trump demanding a painting of him be removed because he finds it unflattering.
He's demanding they take it down because he believes this picture is unflattering, which really makes you think, do you think other pictures of you are flattering? At least in the painting, they blended the foundation into your hairline. But painting is out.
But what got the most attention wasn't what Donald Trump said, but how much the troops enjoyed it.
President Trump's rally-style speech yesterday at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. He had active duty troops booing the media, booing his political opponents.
You think this crowd would have showed up for Biden? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. And the fake news, ladies and gentlemen, look at them. Look at them all. Oh, what I have to put up with. Fake news. What I have to put up with. In Los Angeles, the governor of California, the mayor of Los Angeles.
Oh, those boos are very upsetting. And not just because they remind me of my 5th grade talent show. And looking back, I probably shouldn't have performed the entirety of Eddie Murphy's Raw. I gotta say, this is not a good look for the military. The military is supposed to be apolitical. That graphic is still up. I'm sorry. Oh, I gotta say, this is not a good look for the military. The military is supposed to be apolitical. They don't serve Democrats or Republicans. They protect all of us, even Jill Stein voters for some reason. But maybe the reason these troops seem so MAGA is because the non-Trumpers didn't want to be there.
According to military.com, memos from Fort Bragg reveal a tightly orchestrated effort to curate the optics of Trump's recent visit, including hand-picking soldiers for the audience based on political leanings. Other rules for troops appearing on camera included no fat soldiers.
That really sums up the 2 principles of Donald Trump, doesn't it? Number 1, total loyalty. Number 2, no fatties.